It is a process. It's something that we keep working on. We keep doing. I think we've mentioned a lot in this series that this is an ongoing process of
Mhm.
change and transformation. And so, Brent, just because we've started to get honest, maybe we're making progress in our journey. We've even perhaps done a full disclosure. But what does it look like to continually fight against that desire to go back to wearing a mask, to enter into half truths, to make ourselves look good? How do we fight against some of those desires?
I think, like I said, this is self-correcting to a degree as we're going through the recovery process and becoming healthier versions of self. Um, I mentioned the tolerance window shifting and narrowing of where what was just overlooked before now is like you start becoming convicted. And a lot of this goes into, what Dr. Tim Jennings says in the Conqueror series about the delta phos B in the brain, of how our consciousness becomes seared. And that delta phos B is a neurochemical that reinforces the reward circuitry and desensitizes the aversion to the behavior. So as the guys start going through the groups and start establishing guardrails and boundaries, they start rewiring those neural pathways. And so we start breaking that cycle, starting new neural pathways to openness and honesty as we practice it. And then also that, one of the key things that a group leader or a counselor can help you determine is why do I do this? Why did I lie about that
Yeah.
cheeseburger? Or why did I lie to my boss when it was no big deal, but I lied anyway? And what am I trying to protect? And when did that start in my life? If we can get to that point of origin of when it started, then we can often deal with the trauma and the woundedness around that has caused this protective mask to form. And so, like you said, this is a process. It's not an overnight thing or
Yeah.
just a will to stop, but that commitment to change, the commitment to the process, believing that it's going to lead me to a place where I want to be at the end is key. And that's, every single part of that 7 pillars of freedom curriculum is meant to build on that process and take you through these steps so that by the end of that 10 months, then we're in a new place of openness and honesty. We may not be perfect, but we're not where
Yeah.
we started.
Yeah. Um, One of the things that I've noticed, because I'm soon to be into, maybe I already am. I don't know. It's hard to keep track. I wish I had Brent's brain. He knows 12 groups, 84 guys, this many lives saved, right?
This day of
This
this
many.
year.
You probably know how many times you've been in the air in an airplane and all. It's amazing. I don't have that kind of brain, but um, in the way that I've thought through it, I've gotten to the point in a year 9 of recovery where I still absolutely feel those pulls for half truths to come out. And one of the things that just came to mind as we've been talking has been, what if we played the whole situation out? Okay, so I got a cheeseburger and I told someone that I got a salad instead. Why? What are we trying to protect there? But then also, it's play it out. If I was honest with my wife when I got home, I had a cheeseburger instead of a salad. Play that conversation out. How do you think that would go? And two things kind of come to mind there. One is you catastrophize it in your head that she's gonna be like, "You big fatty, I can't believe you're sleeping on the couch tonight. Get out of here. Go." I know I can do that, tend to catastrophize this thing. And so you may end up with a reality that's actually much less than that. But at the same time, this is what I'm realizing, that she may reinforce by saying, her response may reinforce something I already believe about myself and carry shame with. And so if I get a cheeseburger, which I know I shouldn't, my fear is tied to the shame I actually feel, and I don't want someone else to call me out on that or to reinforce that reality. And so I think in some ways, if you play that out, that situation, you may end up getting to a point of oh, here's what's underneath that desire to lie, to be dishonest, to keep something that seems so simple a secret. And so I think that would just be a suggestion. Maybe try that out. If you feel that pull to do a white lie, play it out and see what you can figure out.
Yeah, well, and even when we expose that kind of thinking, it's revealing that I'm really finding my identity, value, and worth in the opinions of others. That it is what people think of me that matters most.
Yeah.
And we know from Scripture, we know that how God made us, that's not where our value, worth, or identity comes from. But if we're being driven by a fear of what others think of me, it shows the ways that we've still put the opinion and value of others above maybe God's opinion in our life. And I would want to be careful to say there's no, we're not trying to make any promise or guarantee that, hey, just tell the truth and it's not going to go as bad as you
Sure.
thought, because I'm sure there's many people listening that are like, yeah, I was afraid of how it was going to go and I told the truth and I did, and it went even as bad and maybe worse than I thought. That sometimes facing the reality, taking responsibility is incredibly painful to you and to others, and still honesty is worth it. Facing that truth and learning to walk in truth is I think just how we're invited to live in this reality of a connection to who we really are and what's going on, and not thinking that somehow faking it is making it better for everybody else. So that's where I was thinking along the lines of this question. I think a tool like the FASTER scale is really helpful, because rather than just trying to sit down and go, well, what have you lied about this week? Because we may be so stuck in patterns, we don't see those real well. If we sit down and are doing this evaluation of where am I at on this emotional awareness inventory, because really the FASTER scale helps us see what are the fears that are driving me. And I would say that lies are often the byproduct of our fears, that what is driving us in fear is what makes us want to be half true about it or deceptive. And so the more you can stay connected to just the condition of your soul, where you're at in terms of your relationship with God and others, what's driving your fears, worries, doubts, that's going to help you see maybe where you're tempted to lie or where you have been living in some half truths. So I think just having that healthy rhythm of the FASTER scale, and then as Brent mentioned, when you do that group check-in, having that routine of just, I'm committed in this group that I'm going to tell the truth. And some weeks maybe it's a breeze. It's like, I had a great week. I didn't lie about anyone or anything. And then other weeks it's like, I have to be honest. But if I'm in that routine that I do it week in and week out, that's where some real value starts to come, because I think we see those patterns before they're happening and really get the strength and support of others to begin addressing them on that weekly basis.
Yep.